Hi everyone, it's me again, your favorite host with my crazy station back here with all my jewelry and stuff. Okay, so thank you again to Insperity for sponsoring us. Thank you, Randy, for chatting for a moment. Before we announce the first session, I want to say thank you to everyone who sent in incredible submissions for this track. It was super inspiring to see 20 plus submissions about creating culture, creating HR functions, and talking about talent during a really, really hard time right now. I know everyone has a different experience with COVID, but it was really heartening to see the community to come together to talk about all those different things in one track. And so I'm super excited to present the four, what I thought the best events to represent where we are in this moment with HR culture and talent. So really excited for our first session, which is how organizations can intentionally embrace diversity with Annette Alexander, who is the Chief People Officer of WP Engine. I love WP Engine. They have embraced diversity for a really long time, and I love seeing their story grow even further. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Annette for her session.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I am so happy to be here. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay, see me okay. Okay, good. So my name is Annette Alexander, and I am the Chief People Officer at WP Engine. I have been with the company for 3.5 years, and I have had an amazing journey there. Today, I intend to talk to you about how organizations can intentionally embrace diversity. Essentially, I feel that this is what we have done for the last few years, and I would love to share with you what we've done. We are not perfect, but we work on it every single day. And I thought it might be practical to learn about some of those things that we've been doing, and maybe there are a couple of things that you can take away. I would love that. So that's my intention today. I would, love some questions and comments at the end, and learn from you as well. So with that, I'm just going to get started. So first off, just a little bit about WP Engine. So who are we really as a company? So we are the world's leading WordPress hosting and digital platform company. And so we really help our customers win online, and that can be SMB, enterprise, and agencies. And you see here on the slide that we have a ton of customers, 130,000. We power over 1 million websites, and we are in 150 countries. Our business has grown really fast. So we are a 10-year-old company, and we're over 1,000 employees today across 7 countries. So we're in Europe, we're in the US, and we're in Australia. So definitely a global company. We have grown through organic growth and through acquisition. And we are headquartered in Austin. We're on Lavaca Street, and but we have not been back since March. We went virtual first overnight, like I'm sure a lot of you all did as well. And we're still virtual in a virtual first mode across all our 7 offices globally. So it's definitely been a bit. Hello? Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, somehow something went really wrong, so I'm going to share my screen again. So let me just do that. Something went really weird. Just hold on. Just hang on for a second. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Something weird happened, so it took me off my track. Okay, so so back to sort of who we are, and I mentioned that essentially we have we've been virtual since COVID started in March, and here we are going strong. We've been growing really fast as a company, and that has continued through COVID. So that's been great. And okay. So let me just sort of keep going here. One of the questions that I get a lot is, in a global company in lots of different time zones, and during COVID, how do you maintain your culture? What's kind of your secrets? And how do you ensure inclusive culture where everyone can be a leader? So the answer for that would be our values. And you're probably like, oh my God, your values, that's so lame. Like the values are just something kind of on, the wall behind you. And I kind of, thought maybe something a little bit similar when I first joined the company. But what I will say is our values is really our culture and practice. It is really, despite the growth, despite everything that's going on, it's the one thing that's been constant in our business. And we follow this framework for everything that we do, for absolutely everything we do. From how we hire, we base that on our values. We base it on how we promote, how we reward, and how we recognize, how we treat each other each and every day, and how we treat our customers. And it's really sort of our ground rules for how we live each and every day. And when in doubt, you always go to your values. So our values is our culture in action. And they're very sacred. And every year we sign them. We have a renewal ceremony, and it's special. And we sign them, and they hang in every office. And they're not particularly fancy looking, but they hang everywhere. And it's really special, and it's meaningful. And what I would say here is, if you don't have values today, kind of depending on where you are and kind of your journey, I would say, create some with support of your teams. You'd be amazed the power of them. And if your values are just something that hangs on the wall behind you, and you don't think they're particularly helpful, inspiring, or used, I would say, revamp them, relaunch them, do whatever it takes, because I found that this has really helped us and helped our culture. And it's really the essence of who we are. So I thought I wanted to, share that as part of our culture. So let's move into sort of what does diversity actually look like at WP Engine. So first off, I would say we are probably not your typical looking tech company, in the sense that we are female-led. Our CEO is a female, Heather Brunner. I would say that she's the Chief Diversity Officer for our company. She's amazing, and we believe that diversity fuels diversity. We believe that diversity is every person's job, in the company. I've shared here what our numbers are. These are really, really fresh. We share them with our employees. They're North America only. And although we are incredibly proud of the strides that we have made as a company, I look at this and I say, we want to do more. We want to do better. We want to keep going. This is not the end. So this is just a start, right? And with that, I've been doing personally a lot of thinking and talking a lot to Heather, our CEO, and the executive team, and it feels that, like, although everyone cares about diversity and contributes to that, there's not perhaps one person that wakes up and thinks about diversity all day long, like as their sole job, right? And so with that, I have decided to hire a head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was just posted this week. You can see it on our website. You can see it on LinkedIn. And we're looking for, a senior leader to come and help us take this to the next level. And we could not be more excited about that. So, this will be my only plug. If you yourself are interested or know someone is interested, please get in touch, because we're looking for an extraordinary leader. So just wanted to say that. Before we get sort of into the meat kind of some of the things that I want to talk about, I wanted to ask you a question. Think about the last time you took a risk on a new hire, right? So that could have been, maybe someone who didn't fit the mold, maybe someone who essentially, didn't come from the industry you wanted to hire from, or maybe someone who didn't have a college degree, or maybe someone who's been out of the workforce for a while because perhaps they cared for children. So just think about that. And then think about, do you do that on a regular basis or not? I would say for us as a company, we are extremely intentional about how we embrace diversity and how we do just this. How do we take a risk on someone who might not fit all the criteria? How do we do that, and how do we open the doors wider? And with that, I would like to share with you sort of 3 tracks that essentially, we hold ourselves to. So it's open the doors wider. How do we continue to do that? Invest on the inside, and diversity of ideas. So sort of those are tracks in how we, intentionally embrace diversity. And I would like to, talk to you a little bit about some practical things that kind of sit under each bucket. And as I mentioned earlier, I would love if you would be able to take something, away from that, from our learnings. So open the doors wider. So first off, I think it starts with hiring, right? Let me just fill that out. Removing hiring barriers. And what I mean by that is, first off, removing college requirement where it's not needed. So to me, it's the first company that I've worked at where, it hasn't been sort of a hardcore, like you need a college degree, you need this or you need that. But we decided to remove it. And today, 1/3 of our company does not have a college degree. And what we found is that when we removed that, the world opened up. We were able to attract so many more different and really valuable candidates to hire. It was amazing how it attracted so many more. And we looked really hard at all our jobs and said, there are obviously some jobs that you need a degree. Am I going to hire the general counsel without a law degree? No, I'm not going to do that. That's probably not smart. But do all our sales and support jobs, for instance, need a degree? No, they don't. We care about, you having the right aptitude and living our values and wanting to come and join us, and then we can train you. we can really, really, really train you. And we have so many examples of people who have been incredibly successful, you know, started out somewhere and, you know, moved up, moved around, and have become cultural beacons, you know, with 1/3 of our teams and not having a degree. So I would say that is something that, you know, we're going to continue to do. It's been very successful. And if you can, I would look at that. The second thing is essentially rethinking the hiring process. So make sure, or we've made sure that our teams are incredibly skilled in what they're doing. So the last thing you want is someone kind of going in for an interview, not being prepped, not using, you know, interviewing for values or competencies. That all needs to be prepped beforehand. Because if you don't, then you get into the situation of someone kind of doing the pint test, as we call it, where, oh, I would like to have a pint down the street with that person, pre-COVID, I guess. Yes or no, and you just hire someone like you. And we spent a lot of time with the hiring managers and also the teams who hire, that this is not a place that, you know, we want to be. And so we spent a lot of time on that. So everyone is super prepped beforehand, right? The second thing is make sure you have written feedback for all interviews. Because of that, you really get a much more objective view of how the interview went and how suited the candidate essentially is, you know, for the role. If you just sit in a room and say, okay, who liked the candidate, yes or no, then you get groupthink, right? And it's fine to do a round table, but after you received the written feedback. So you leading those round tables already know kind of where the room is, but you're just trying to tease out a little bit more feedback. So that's been, you know, a couple of things that we've done that's really helped us, and they seem probably silly or too easy or whatever, but it's certainly helped. The third thing is we have introduced assessments, and assessment in the sense of, like, you know, more aptitude assessments, not technical, but an assessment you take before you get to the first interview, right? So do we think you have what it takes to be successful in selling or successful in helping our customers, right? So we put them through that. And then if you pass it, then essentially you get your first phone screen. And that has given us so many more candidates from a much wider pool. It's amazing. It's like doubled it. And it's made us hire from very different industries than we hired from before. And it's just been fantastic. So I recommend sort of, and they're equally as successful, by the way, because we're a year in now. So there's no difference as long as we train you on the job. So I would just say, you know, something to absolutely look at, and then reevaluate job descriptions. So we know that women in general want to meet 100% of the requirements of the job description before they apply, versus men only say, you know, it feels like 60%, I'm going to go ahead and apply, right? So with that, you know, with us knowing that, how do we think about it? You know, what do we do with our job descriptions? Well, first off, I think let's make sure that our descriptions talking more about the job versus list like a hard set of requirements, because then people do like that checklist. So I think really, really, you know, talking about the job itself is better. The second thing that we do is we run it through Textio, which is essentially a tool that tells us whether or not our job description is gender neutral or not, right? And that's kind of where you want it to be, because you don't want to bias it one way or the other, like, oh, it's only men applying or it's only women that apply. And that's been great too. And, you know, kind of a personal story there. I had an experience with this the other day because I posted the leader of D&I, and the recruiter that I'm working with said, hey, you know, listen, I need to run it by Textio. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. And then let's post it. And I never expected him to come back to me and say, you know, your job description is bad. And then he said, sorry, you failed. Textio failed you. And I was like, what do you mean? It's the head of D&I. And he said, well, too much corporate speak, and you're overly feminine in how you've written the note. I mean, the job description. And so I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And so essentially, what happened is that I had to rewrite it, take out all the corporate stuff that I had put in there that I didn't even realize, and then make it more gender neutral. And I passed the second time around. But that's kind of a little bit of a humiliating experience. It happened. And I thought, I write good job descriptions, and I learned that I don't. So those are just, a couple of things for everyone to kind of be aware of, and to I would really say, evaluate them for your business if you haven't already done that. I would like for you to hear from Tom, who is an employee that started, without a degree and who's been incredibly successful. And I'll let him share his story.
I've never had a job invest as much time and effort in myself as I've invested in a job. Every job, and I've worked reputable jobs before, like I've worked at In-N-Out, which has a great culture, has a great background. Mighty Fine has the same. And I was always stuck in one position because I was too good at that position. Here, it's celebrated and you're pushed forward. I knew nothing about WP Engine until my buddy BMO, Ben Moore, had started here. He'd been here for about 8 months, and I was grinding my gears at my 2 previous jobs because I was working 85, 90 hours a week at Mighty Fine Burgers and CJ's Pharmacy. He had just gotten back from a trip to Korea, and I was helping him move, and I was kind of talking about how much of a dead end both those jobs were. So I started as an L1 and felt very over my head because I went from 2 service jobs to a tech job that does have customer service. And I think my first week, I'm sitting there going, can I really do this job? Getting out onto the floor and actually working issues and working tickets with people got me to where I'm at today. It really is all about the family that I have here that got me to the premium team when we had it. Got me to L2, got me to senior L2. And I can't thank everyone enough here to get me to where I'm at today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening to that. I hope that was helpful to sort of hear some of his experience. So let me move on to how we are opening the doors wider. So practice open book management, right? Which is really, really, really key for us. So it means opening the doors to the corner office and giving our employees an understanding, essentially, of the business. What is happening at all times, the good and the bad, letting everyone have access to the same information. Some of you might be like, oh my God, that feels really scary. At the end of the day, we treat it as the family table. Everyone is around the family table. We talk about what's happening, what's going on, and everyone is privy to the same information. And we trust, that it stays, within the family. And so far, that's our employees have been awesome. So that's a really important part for us. Being transparent, we're doing that in a few different ways. First off, we meet once a week, and you hear from the CEO, you hear from the executive team, you hear from employees about what's happening in the business. So everyone has a pulse on what's happening. You also know the numbers at all times. Every month, full transparency about it. And we ensure that there is financial training for everyone. So everyone sort of starts at the same level, meaning that, we don't want someone sitting there listening and just saying, great, looks some red, some green, don't really understand what it means. We spend the time making sure everyone gets what it is. So when we're updating every week, everyone is at the same level. So those have become really important ways for us to be transparent and give everyone the same information, so everyone can make the right decisions for their teams, for their customers, and be a shareholder essentially. And then we keep giving updates in Slack, our virtual communications channels throughout the week on what's happening, and then we get everyone together twice a year where we go even deeper. We used to fly everyone in. Now it's all virtual, but hopefully soon everyone will be back together. So this has been really, really, really awesome. So we talked about opening the doors wider. Then we also want to invest on the inside. We want to grow our teams. We want to grow future leaders on the inside. How do we actually, kind of do that? Well, we have invested a lot in learning and development. And I know that's, maybe rare for some that might have like one L&D person or maybe someone else in HR does L&D. We actually have a big team of trainers. And also some of them, function as coaches, because we believe it starts with investing in our people. We don't believe in a sink or swim mentality, and we believe in continuous learning. So first of all, you can be successful from the day you start, right? And that's particularly important if someone doesn't have the background in our business. They don't know the tech industry or haven't worked in it before, or they might not have the skill set to do the job. Well, we'll train you on that. So very, very important. And you see that here, that we do, new employee onboarding, we do technical and sales trainings for weeks before we put someone on the floor. And then we believe in continuous training, soft skill training, for everyone to keep their skill set up, and also technical training to continue to learn and evolve, so we can continue to innovate, and for everyone to get better and continue to grow, and leadership training. So we know that, being a manager is so important. People lead their manager, not companies, right? So being the best manager you can possibly be, it's huge. So we invest a lot there. So in essence, this has been something that definitely sets us apart here. And then creating other pathways for growth. So we call it where the best gets better. What are other things that we need to do? And so we're, providing the training, etc. So you can continue to learn, continue to evolve. That's awesome. But then we also need to create feedback loops, right? So a few years ago, I met with all employees across the company. And what I learned from them is the thing that they care the most about is how to move their career forward at WP Engine, how to successfully do that, how they can be better, how they can continue to grow. And what I realized then is we need a better feedback culture. And just sort of meeting once a year for some kind of, annual review just isn't good enough. That everyone dreads anyways, because sometimes you don't know what's going to be said, right? So we need to have an ongoing culture of giving each other feedback. So we, implemented that, put a tool in called 15.5, where you check in every 2 weeks, you give feedback to your manager gives feedback to you, what are you working on, what's going on, how are you feeling? And it's brilliant. It is so great. And it just keeps you in sync, and you're getting feedback along the way. You can also get feedback from peers. Then when we do the annual review, which we called growth, we call them growth conversations. There's no ratings. There's no talk about, oh yeah, you didn't do that project, you didn't do well on this or that. At that point, if something didn't go well, we will have uncovered it in our biweekly check-ins. And so those conversations becomes about your growth in the company. How are you feeling about it? How is your career going? How can we help and support you? What are your thoughts? So they become about, your career much more, and how we can help you grow. So that's been awesome. The second thing is that we have made competencies available to everyone. So you can see not only what it takes to go and work in a certain department, but also between different levels. So I'm a manager, I want to get to director. What is the difference from a manager to a director? And what are the expectations? So that's really helped. And, mentorship. So, across the business. So I work in, customer support and I want to get into R&D. Well, let's get someone in R&D just to mentor you. And then lastly, we're doing something called manager forums, where in essence, we bring all managers together once a month, because what we learned is that some of this communication that we did up here in town halls and all hands and all of that, managers still didn't always feel equipped to continue to have that conversation with their teams, and didn't always feel they might have had enough information to reinforce, to do Q&A, these types of things. So every month we get the managers together and we talk about what's on their mind, the topics we share. They tell us what they want to hear about it in advance, or there might be things happening in the business. We have the CEO on, or other execs, different people on, and we talk about it, and there's Q&A. So they are feeling really, really adequately prepped, so they can manage really, really well and keep the information flow going with their team and help their teams do really well in their jobs, which is essentially the goal here. So those are just a couple of things that, has really worked. Okay, I will keep going a little bit. So in essence, to be truly, truly, truly intentional about diversity, you have to create a space for employees to be themselves. We always say, we want to be the place where you bring your whole self to work. We don't want you to be a person at home and a person when you log on to work. So, essentially, our values support individuals' freedom to decide and act. That's why we put so much emphasis on the values up front. We really, really want to hear different viewpoints, and we are okay for employees to speak up and let us know if you disagree. It's okay. We encourage a healthy debate. And also we want to make sure our employees are heard and they get their answers, So once a month, we get together and we do Slido, where anyone can ask questions, anonymously if you want, and we get the executive up and we answer the questions. And if we don't have the answer, we follow up. And essentially, it's been awesome. Sometimes we prep, sometimes we don't. So we're sometimes on the spot, just answering, questions live. And it creates a transparency and a trust. Even if employees don't like the answer, we might not always have all the answers, but that we are working together and they know what's happening. Because when they know what's happening, they just do so much better and empowers everyone in the organization. And then lastly, I think, treat your team like equals. This is like, basic, but, super duper important. So first of all, equal pay for equal work, that's kind of that's a basic one, right? And we don't ever ask anyone what they're making currently, right? And so we ask what their expectations are, but at the end of the day, we bring everyone in at the market for what that job is. That's just, how we do it. Equal pay for equal work, super important. I mentioned, everyone should bring their true selves to work. We don't want you to be anyone but who you are. And then again, share the good news and the bad news. Don't ever try to hide anything. If there's something bad to share, let's just talk about it, and let's overcome that together and work on it together. Because, I'm amazed how well our employees do if they know about something bad and we explain to them why it's bad, versus like we hide behind it and then we share it. And then they're like, we should have known about this beforehand. And so I think that's absolutely key. And then sort of in conclusion, I would say, we work, really, really hard to intentionally embrace diversity. I think, we worked hard to open the doors wider. And so, essentially make sure that we are looking at incredibly diverse talent pools and thinking hard about how to do that and putting in place so we can get to talk to as many people as possible. And it's awesome to do that. We invest in people on the inside, to grow them each and every day, and to really, help everyone become leaders of tomorrow. We believe that everyone is a leader. You don't need a title to be a leader at WP Engine. And then encourage diversity of ideas. We want to hear from you. We know you have a lot on your mind, a lot to say, and we want to hear from you. Again, we don't care the level where you sit in the organization. Your voice matters so much. And this is, how we do it. And also, we have also put ERGs together, employee resource groups, and that's also really, really, really helped bring a diverse set of thoughts, opinions to the table, and that's been incredibly helpful to create different communities, to bring new and different voices, and that's continuing to grow, and that's been super super healthy and helpful for everyone in the organization to have more communities to belong in. So with that, those were some of the things I wanted to share. We believe where there's focus, there's progress. We're not about being perfect, but keep working on something, keeping intentional about it, and then you'll be better every day. And so we're going to keep our focus on this, and we know that we're going to keep making progress. So with that, thank you for listening, and I am happy to answer any questions. I can't see y'all.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm here to ask you the questions.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say one thing that really struck a chord with me is whenever you talked about having a better feedback culture, because it's so important for creating transparency and relationships with people. So love that. But I'll jump into some questions. Someone asked, is 15.5 performance tool an in-house developed tool, or is it a vendor that you have, and how can people get access to that?
Yeah, just go and Google 15.5.
Okay, gotcha. It's not an in-house tool, it's a vendor.
No, we don't have any in-house tools for this, and it's awesome. It's super agile, super easy, super cool team. Look it up.
Awesome, cool.
Yeah.
Another question is, where are companies failing at intentionally embracing diversity, and how can we address that?
Where are companies failing?
Yeah.
So I think where we are failing today, I wouldn't call it failing, where we can do better, is what I opened with. I don't think we have anyone thinking about diversity every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is your sole purpose, and how to make that better. Although we say it's everyone's job, and I don't spend every hour of my day thinking about that.
Yeah.
And how we can integrate diversity, absolutely everything we can do. It shouldn't just be like an HR program or something. And I think I wish we had put someone in place sooner. I think we would have had more progress and been able to do more faster. And my advice would be, if you can, I would invest in someone sooner, because I've been able to see, what others have been able to invest in faster.
Yeah, that makes sense. That completely makes sense.
Yeah.
The next question is, what was the anonymous process of monthly asking questions to leadership? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes. So there's an app called Slido. And essentially, we send it out to the company. We'd be like, oh, our monthly, Q&A is coming up. Please ask, any questions that you have. And then the whole company can see it. And then you can upvote or down questions. So I can ask, how's it going on, hiring the D&I leader? Okay. And then people, can vote it up or down if they want to have an update for me on that or not. And a lot of the times we get tough questions, really direct. And it's been awesome. Sometimes we've done it we launched it even in a meeting, and people can be on their phones right there and then.
Yeah.
Those are a little harder to do, because it just takes a little bit longer. So we normally give a few days. and then we hit it hard, and it can be tricky sometimes because you don't have all the answers.
I was going to ask, can you give us an example of one of the hard questions that you were asked and how you were able to kind of handle that?
Yeah, so we just acquired a company last year called Flywheel, really awesome company, and we have been integrating Flywheel into WP Engine over the last a few months, and with integrations, I think a lot of people have sort of the impression with integrations they're going to be, layoffs, or people are going to lose their jobs. And that was never our intention. And so we just hadn't said anything about it because that wasn't how we were integrating the teams. So we would get a lot of questions about, are we going to lose our jobs? And so that was one thing. And the answer was no. The second thing we got a lot was during COVID. And that's when we really, really, during this time, we really started it. And employees were like, are you expecting there to be layoffs as part of, us being in a pandemic? Does the company, have to do that? And should I be planning for that? And so, those are hard questions because the answer is no. We haven't, the company's doing great. We, have moved into a virtual first environment very well. We have no plans to do that. But at the same time, as a company, can you ever really make that promise?
Yeah. Right.
So that's tricky, right? And you want
it's a fine line to walk, definitely.
It's a fine line. And so these are some of the really direct questions that we're getting, and I think they're healthy, and employees are obviously worrying about it, and it is important to address it because we want employees to be able to sleep at night.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 4 more minutes, so I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll have to say goodbye. But someone asked, what is some advice you would give or first steps a company should take to push more transparent communication from the top down? How do the higher ups help those under them feel more comfortable being transparent and honest? And I think that Slido is definitely one way, just an anonymous feedback forum. But do you have any other maybe helpful tips on that?
Yeah, I do. So kind of depending on the size of your function. But I think, do Slido also. If your team is big, but it's always not company-wide, do Slido with your team as well, right? Because sometimes now on Zoom, and if you have 50 people in your function, they're still kind of worried about asking questions in Zoom. It just kind of feels weird sometimes. Yep. So they just don't do it. So I learned that use Slido with your teams over a certain size. If it's smaller, then you can probably just kind of do it on the fly. The second thing is after every sort of like town hall event, get your team together. Make sure, did those messages resonate? What did the CEO just talk about? Or what did, such and such talk about? Is it making sense? What does it mean for you and your work and for our team? How do we react to this? And so while it's fresh, just kind of go for it. Do that is really important. And this is for, leaders to do. And then I think the last thing I would say is open door policy. And so our CEO, now we don't have offices, but, so now it's just like a Zoom call. But anyone is available to anyone at any time. It doesn't matter your role, your level. It doesn't matter. We're all in this together. Everyone matters. So the ability to set up some time for a chat with anyone and making yourself available to do that is so important. And leadership communicating that. Access leaders for everyone. Not everyone is going to take you up on that, but many people will. And those meetings are also so helpful for leaders because the feedback you get is feedback you wouldn't otherwise get.
Exactly.
So those would be some things that we're doing that have been helpful. Yeah.
I love that. I think that some of the common themes are transparency in messaging, clarity in messaging, and just being open and honest. So thank you so much, Annette, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope the rest of the day goes really well.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Awesome. So thank you, Annette, again for being here. And thank you, WP Engine, for being such a front runner and leader in diversity in Austin Tech.